Someone told me, and I can't remember who, but they told me that it's impossible to be sad or angry if you're feeling gratitude. And that always stuck with me. We'll be exploring a little bit of that in this episode, along with talking to several local musicians about their work, talking to artists that do public art, and an exploration into ambient music. I'm Stephen Collins, and this is 78644. We have Mark Wiillenborg in the studio today with Dave Leroy Biller on the pedal steel. Mark Wiillenborg's from the band the Shufflehawks. Both these guys are Lockhartians, living right here in town. And you've just finished, we talked a little bit earlier before we started recording that you had a record, right?
Yeah, I had the bad fortune of releasing a record right at the beginning of the pandemic. So we went into the studio in Austin and recorded this in 2018 and 19, and used a bunch of A-listers from the Austin music scene, and we just so happened to get it all recorded and going into the mix the week that they shut down everything. And so we were kind of on hiatus for several months, and finally when it opened back up enough, we went back in, and just a few of us went in and mixed. And at the time, it seemed like a good idea to release it, but in December of, I guess, 19. Yeah, it was released, and I don't think anybody's heard it.
That's a common problem, I think, from records from that period. You know, people recorded it, or they were getting ready to launch, even tour it, and just all of it stopped. So
everything just shut down.
You don't have a name for it yet, though, right?
No, it's called Cold Beer and Country Music. It's actually out. The album is out under my name, Mark Wiillenborg. And then since then, I've formed this band, the Shufflehawks, and we play those songs. And slightly, I mean, it's pretty close to the record, but we have a different take on it, as most bands do when you play live. So they've kind of taken on a whole new life. And then, of course, there's new material that I haven't gotten to record yet.
You're new to Lockhart, is that right?
I've been here, it'll be 2 years in December. So we moved right in the middle of all of this. Everything was kind of locked down and on hold, and we were living in Kyle. I've been in the Austin area for close to 20 years, but I've never lived in Lockhart until 2020, I guess. And we moved because we have some family here, and we were finding that living in Kyle, we were coming over here to eat at Loop and Lil's and eat barbecue and spend time with friends and family. So we just decided, let's just move.
And have you been here for a while, or?
I got here about a year and a half ago. Same thing. I lived in Austin for almost 30 years, and after a bit of a change in life, like a divorce and stuff like that, thought it was a good time to get out of there. And a lot of my friends were moving down here, and I feel kind of bad. I don't want to be part of some kind of an invasion of Austin people or anything like that. You know, I want everybody to bring something cool down here, you know. I'm not coming down here like buying up property and, you know, making everybody rent it back and, you know, opening kitschy shops and stuff like that. I just want a nice, easygoing place to live, and Lockhart is really perfect town for me. I've never really been like a small town guy, but now most definitely.
As a new person coming in, you know, trying to start whatever, you know, music career, but I've lived in Austin, but I wasn't a musician actively playing all that time in Austin. So I never build the relationships. And what I've found is I've been able to build relationships here in a way that I've not been able to as things have picked up for the band. Driving into Austin and playing, it's still difficult because you're not there all the time. But yeah, it's been nice. People have been very receptive here, and it's just amazing that you have this studio here, and you know, it feels a little more, I don't know, friendly and just inviting and possible.
Let's talk a little bit about the song that you're gonna play.
Yeah, it's a song called Someday, and I wrote this a few years back when I was going through a transitional part of my life too, and kind of trying to start something new. And it's that notion of, when things are bad, just keep going. It'll get better, and just keep your eye on someday. Playing it now, it kind of feels like we found the someday here in Lockhart. Someday, gonna turn this thing around. And someday, gonna try and make you proud. Someday I'll buy that little yellow house, make your dream come true. And then someday can be every day with you. Someday I'm gonna write a true love song. Someday, if the world will sing along, someday I'll strike a note, makes everything a road for us ring true. And then someday can be every day with you. I know that life will get you down, it feels like things won't come around our way. Put your little hand in mine, and together we could walk the line. And someday, oh someday, someday, gonna break into the clear. And someday, gonna drop these chains of fear. Someday I'll kill these demons in my head, and our love will shine anew. And then someday can be every day with you. With you.
You can find Mark and the Shufflehawks playing at the Commerce Hall on November 22nd. That's a full band show, right?
Yes, yeah, and I think because it's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, what we're hoping is we've got some folks that are going to make some homemade pies, and we're going to have a pie auction, and we're going to give the proceeds to the Caldwell County Food Bank.
Oh, that's great! A beautiful song, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to thank both of you for coming in. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, oh yes, thanks for having me. I love the podcast.
alone on a mattress on the floor in the dark, in a bleak and lonely house. The solitary flame from the solitary candle that had lighted his path up the creaking stairs was now extinguished in that raw and empty room in the foreboding blackness. The sleepless man lay waiting to be haunted by both guilt and grief. There was a wrenching vision of two children who never would grow up, who died in infancy. Frank's children. Thereafter, Frank and his wife, Jeannie, doted on their only surviving child. But then came that cold, wicked January morning, only weeks ago, when Frank and his family boarded a train. There was scarcely a mile in their journey, when there came a sudden jolt. The passenger car toppled from the track, down an embankment, into a field. Frank and Jenny were bumped and bruised, but their 11-year-old son, Benny, was killed. 12 of the boy's classmates served as pallbearers at his funeral. Jeannie, who already deep in shock, fell deeper into depression and more shock. Frank had accepted a position that required relocation to a new town and a new home. But Jeannie, who had never approved of Frank's career ambitions to begin with, was now less than ever enthusiastic. "Go on ahead," she told him. What conceivable help should she be to him anyway? So Frank went on ahead, alone. There was a bare mattress that was put down on the floor in the master bedroom. That was all. And Frank would sleep there, or at least try. For the gloom hung around his soul like an anvil. This man wandered backward from regret to regret. There were only 3 children, now dead, and the new job, the weight that it would bear, which he should have been so enthusiastic. Well, he wished he could back out of it now, but there was no way. His wife was convinced that their son had been taken from them a kind of divine punishment because of Frank's ambitions, as a sacrifice. It's been said that heavy is the head that wears the crown. Well, certainly it was true for the tormented man you just met. But what I have been describing to you was the night after the inauguration of Franklin Pierce, the 14th President of the United States, March 4th, 1853. Whenever you see people that may look like they're very successful, and you may long or covet in your heart to have what they have, always remember that they struggle too, and remember to be thankful for what we have. It's a moment that we can take to look up in the stars in the night sky, and take a deep breath of fresh air and clear our minds, and know that gratitude is really the secret to happiness, more than accomplishment.
We have Kevin Daniel Humphrey on the studio today. As a friend of mine, we've done some work together, and I always love working with you, Kevin. It's fantastic. You got a great musicality to you.
Same. I really enjoy your songs and the way you produce music and the way you play and everything. I've enjoyed the shows we've done together as well as the studio stuff.
Oh, thanks. So you've got a new project that you're working on called KD and the Sharp Four. That's correct?
Yeah, that's right. So this was kind of born out of my love for like boogie woogie blues music and 50s and 60s soul and R&B. Loved Ray Charles since I was a little kid. Got into the bluesmen, in my teen years and stuff like that, kind of trying to figure out who influenced some of the classic rock bands that everyone was listening to. And so my band name is kind of based in that as well. I do have 4 players. I've got Eric Slater on guitar. I've got Jonathan David on saxophone. I've got David Viriale, or Viriale, depending on how you want to pronounce that Italian last name, playing the drums. And I have Byron Nethery playing bass. And they're the Sharp Four, but a Sharp Four is actually a musical term you might recognize in a gospel song. It might go something like this, and then go here, and then here, and then give you this cool right there. And some people call it a flat 5, but I thought that Sharp 4 was just a cooler band name than flat 5. We're kind of building our band around that kind of classic boogie woogie blues, soul, and R&B sound, and what at the time people were calling rock and roll, but I don't think that's what people call it anymore. I think I'm actually going to go with singles for a little while. I've had a few different record concept ideas, and I kind of overthink it, and I've been looking at the world and the way our band works, and we have we just have like a massive catalog of old songs that we like to play kind of our own way. And some are recognizable, some are not. I feel like we're more of a musical act than a like deeply thought out art group, as much as that would be in my personality, and like as much as I've been known to kind of think about philosophy and politics and religion in my personal life. My band, I realized that really through COVID and the stress of that, and when I was teaching high school, that I really do think that there's some value just getting people to dance and enjoy each other and to sing along. You know, I grew up in church, and I really did love that community aspect of it, and the singing and dancing together, and the praise and worship aspect was a really big part of my week and my childhood all the time, and it influenced me a lot. And I kind of really just want to bring that to everyone. There are definitely some people that don't want to go into a bar, maybe because they've struggled with alcohol, or maybe they have a very strict religious view against that, or moral view against it. But I feel like, for the most part, bars are some of the most inviting places to 21 and up people in the world. Playing there and trying to spread some joy and encouragement and love in that way is really kind of this like Zen moment that I had in putting my band together finally, because I was so paralyzed with what message do I want? What image do I want to portray? And how do I want to be seen as an artist? And then I was just like, you know what? As a little boy, I would sing and dance for my family, and they loved it. And I loved that in church, and like, let's just sing and dance. One thing that has been on my mind lately, it's really Lockhart in general. Because when I fell out of my job pretty hard, I just, kind of gave up something that I really loved because I no longer believed in it. I came to Lockhart and kind of bounced around town for a little while and found Chaz and Naomi at Sunflower. They then had me helping in the shop, and then I started working on guitars, and then I played in Chaz's band, and then I was in the house band for The Last Waltz. That's another reason why I really want to bring the band out here, is just this place made me believe that I can make this thing work. And so I'm like super thankful for that. And then people encouraging me, being someone that wants to sing and dance, I'm very guarded of original music. Like, Lockhart has really encouraged me when I'm sitting around at a piano or something at a party or at the Sunflower House. And the song that I'm playing, it's kind of from the last person that I let hurt me before I met my wife, who I'm very thankful for now. And though this tune is kind of an anti-love song called Too Old for Love Songs, it's really that I'm getting too old to sing the blues. Singing the blues is like an act of thankfulness for me, almost.
Too old for love songs, baby. I'm too young to die. I can't cry no more. My wells run dry. You took a piece of my heart, and though it was so small, was all I had left. Lord, to kill that all. Love is fleeting, baby, heartache lasts. I can't seem to outrun my pain. Lord, I know I'll be just fine. Say it again. Lord, I know I'll be just fine, 'cause I'm too old for love songs, baby. Too old to sing these blues.
Fantastic. That's great. Really nice to have Bobby Taus on drums and Tony Palace on sax.
Tony, the Taj Mahal Palace.
Yeah,
that's what
man.
they call him.
No one gets to, he never comes out. Anyway,
Never.
Tony Palace, y'all. Kev, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it.
The Texas Monthly Barbecue Festival brought with it several interesting things, and one of them being a new mural for downtown Lockhart, painted by Matt Tumlinson and text by David Bond. I got a chance to speak with Matt by phone about doing the mural and his technique in painting it, his admiration for ghost signs, of which Lockhart has many. We started out by discussing Lockhart.
Well, I hadn't really spent a whole lot of time there, enough to really like soak it in. But yeah, it's a pretty special place. It's kind of it seems like it's on its way up in a lot of really cool ways. So ghost signs are essentially old advertisements that were painted on walls of a lot of these older historic towns, and they've since faded or been plastered over or lost in some way. But you'll still see kind of remnants of them. And I know there's there's quite a few there in the downtown square of Lockhart. And so with kind of that feel in mind, I wanted to design a mural that would kind of reflect like what those things looked like whenever they were new. So with keeping some of those elements of those old ghost signs and applying that to something brand new, it sort of took on this feeling, or I hope it took on the feeling of something that was really timeless. Like it looked like it had been there forever. And then, I brought my friend David Bond in to kind of help me, who's a traditional sign painter who also really gets the vision. And back in the day, they would have these traveling salespeople or traveling painters that would go around and paint all these signs. And, that's kind of a lost craft. And so he, and working with him, we were able to sort of bring back that same feeling of these old vintage signs that used to be everywhere. There's a couple times, I really just dove head first into doing murals. I did my first ones out in the little town of Rankin, out south of Midland. I figured if I messed up there, nobody would see them. So I kind of got my feet wet there and learned a lot. It was a lot of fun. It's a public art, and so it's not for a select group of people to look at every day. It's whoever's driving by gets to look at that. And I really dig that about murals, and had wanted to do one for a long time, and finally just set my mind to it and knocked out a couple. My buddy David Bond out of Waco, like I said, he does traditional sign painting, hand lettering, kind of this lost craft. Does a lot of stuff with pinstriping and motorcycles, and just a really versatile fellow nerd of sort of these lost arts. But so he did the actual lettering on Lockhart. The Lockhart portion of the sign. I designed it all, but then he, I kind of put the ball in his court and you do your thing over here. And so he did that, and I kind of did everything else that didn't involve lettering. I really, really hope it stays. I try to design something that was pretty classic. I'd be pretty bummed if they painted over it for just, a blank wall. I think that it really adds a lot to downtown. Be pretty bummed if they painted over it. They're painting over it with something else. The world needs more art.
You can find out more about Matt Tumlinson's art at tumlinsonart.com, TUMLINSONART.com. And it is getting about that time to check in with Eye in the Sky. Of course, Alan Parsons is out this week. He had to go for his colonoscopy, so thoughts and prayers for him. And of course, Bobby Chowder, healing from the incident of being burned by trying to light a propane grill the wrong way. So we have Billy Elvis working for us now. Billy, can you hear us?
Hey, Stephen, what's going on? That's right, Billy Elvis here. You're eye in the sky. I gotta be honest. Little Phil over here driving this thing, it says, kind of seems more like a riot in the sky, if you know what I mean. Hey, looking out over here, anything was, you gotta go past Snap Fitness today. Absolutely wouldn't do it. Wouldn't even bring in maybe the Dairy Queen. Looks like there's gonna be a lot of action over since they've moved that new Grandy's down there over by the old mall. Also, flying over by the Omaha right now. Like I said earlier, looks like Hot Topic is probably having a big sale, and I think Mervin's is doing a clearance. So for a Monday, it's pretty packed back there as well. So if you have any children who might have school activities later at the high school that's over by the Omaha, I would definitely maybe see if they might reschedule anything like that, because it's just I would say there's probably at least a 2-minute wait. Traffic's just hectic as it can get right here right now. Also, let's take our sponsor Poco Loco, and love being your eye in the sky up here when Phil's not on the rye. You know what I mean? All right, back to you, Steven.
Green beans, okra, sunshine. I'm feeling fine with a magic brine. Green beans, okra, sunshine. I'm feeling fine with a magic brine.
Wednesday, November 16th at the Pearl, local singer-songwriter Stoney Gable from 7 to 9. Thursday, November 17th at Old Pal from 7 to 9, there is W.C. Edgar. The Pearl will be having open mic hosted by Michael James Trio from 7 to 9. The sign-up starts at 6:30 p.m. Load Off Fannies will be having karaoke from 6 to 10 p.m. And the El Rey Bar nightclub is line dancing, women only, from 6 to 7 p.m. Friday, November 18th, Old Pal will be having Jamie Kruger Band from 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. The Pearl will be celebrating Reuben Brooks with the Reuben Brooks Birthday Bash with Bear Ryan, 5 to 7 p.m. And Grant Ewing will be playing from 8 to 10 p.m. Commerce Hall will be having Katie and the Four Sharps. Load Off Fannies will be having Two Bins and a Bear, and that's from 7 to 9 p.m. The Gaslight Baker Theater will be having the Gaslight Baker Theater Kids program and is presenting Sherlock Holmes and the First Baker Street Irregular at 7 p.m. Friday and Saturday night. It's free and open to the public, and the kids have been working really hard on this, and the community is invited to show up to support these young actors. For many of them, this is their first time on stage performing. The kids range from ages 7 to 13, and the play runs about an hour long with a 10-minute intermission. Saturday night, November 19th, 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. at Old Pal is Austin Gillum. Gaslight Baker Theater is having the Gaslight Baker Theater Kids program and is presenting Sherlock Holmes and the First Baker Street Irregular. It's a free show. Sunday, November 20th, the Pearl will be having a Sunday matinee with W.C. Clark. That's from 3 to 5 p.m. Arts and Crafts will be having the Intro to the Bookbinding Workshop, and that's from 5 to 7 p.m. Load Off Fannies will be having Slyfoot Family from 3 to 6 p.m. Tuesday, November 22nd, the Shufflehawks will be playing at Commerce Hall. They'll be having a pie auction that's benefiting the Caldwell County Food Bank. Wednesday, November 23rd, the Pearl will be having local singer-songwriter Chris Lancaster from 7 to 9 p.m. And Load Off Fannies will be having a special karaoke night, so bring the relatives, and that'll be happening from 5 to 8 p.m. Friday, November 25th, Old Pal will be having Austin Gillum. That's 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. The Pearl will be having the Michael James Band at 8 to 10 p.m. Arts and Crafts is opening an open mic night. Halliana is hosting that. Sign-up starts at 7 p.m. Sunday, November 26th, Old Pal is going to be having Sidetracked from 9:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Load Off Fannies will be having Jams with Jenny from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday, November 27th, Old Pal will be having a brunch, and that's a time to be determined. And the Pearl will be having their Sunday matinee with W.C. Clark from 3 to 5 p.m. That's it for 78644 News.
I'm feeling fine with a magic brine. Green beans,
Jonathan Ray Case, a songwriter here in Lockhart and also an ambient artist, is stopped by, and he's going to be visiting with us a little bit about some of his latest ambient work that he's going to be releasing soon. Jonathan, thanks for coming by.
Good evening. It's great to be with you. Great to have this conversation with you, Steve.
Let's talk a little bit about, so you're a songwriter and you do ambient work too. And for people who are listening that don't know what that is, it's a type of music that plays in the background, kind of pioneered by Brian Eno. You've been working on a new record or a collection of pieces. I think that'll be like an EP. Tell us a little bit about that and how you How you got into that?
You know, I think when we met, however many years ago, I feel like I don't even know if it was explicitly stated, but we kind of both realized through the course of small talk that we had mutual interests in ambient music and probably classical as well. You know, to be honest with you, I feel like my tastes have kind of gravitated towards more instrumental stuff the older I get. When you're a music addict, but you're trying to work out your own worldview, at some point, you know, you start to filter out other people's worldview that comes through in lyrics, and you still get the music, but you don't get someone else's poetry, and you kind of clear the tabula rasa for you to be able to formulate your own ideas through music. You know, lo-fi is a genre that appeals to me a lot. A lot of time you get in the car, you go on a road trip, and I like lo-fi because there's some energy, there's some beats, but there's also that repetitive part of it, and it can be background music, and you can have a conversation, but you've got something buoying your road trip musically. The more music I listen to, the more minimalist my tastes get, and the fewer words, the better. In some ways, it fluctuates, but that's kind of where my tastes lie. Or classical guitar or something.
With ambient music, there's sort of a transcendence, you know, that the music is trying to color your emotional place where you are. So, for example, that's kind of what I mean by in the background. Mm-hmm. So you've got Brian Eno's music for airports, and so he's like, here's a space, you know, the Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, and he wrote music to sort of play as you're standing there, and it's not classical; it's just informs a sort of mood, you know, and I thought that was fascinating, you know,
totally, yeah.
And you know, you can. As a songwriter, you can put that in to music, and that's and color the tone that way. I've always been fascinated with it. I think you and I have that thing in common.
Yeah, the painting analogy is a good one. You know, I remember hearing Lou Reed's Metal Machine music, and the legend goes that it was what he delivered to RCA after Transformer, and you know, Transformer was this phenomenal hit, and as Lou Reed would do, he said, well, I got something for you next, and he just put 4 guitars up in his New York loft and let them ring out and left, and then delivered that to RCA as his next record. But what's the coolest thing, and that's the origin of Obsessio, and I was trying to kind of recalibrate, rediscover why I make music, and it's because I'm obsessed with music. What am I obsessed with? And I'm obsessed with really fundamental elements of it, like harmonies, the way one note bounces off the next, and what happens between those. And like I said, drones. When you let a drone ring out, things start to emerge from it. It's generative. There are colors and shapes and sounds that emerge out of another sound, and it kind of grows organically upon itself. And that's when you hear that Metal Machine music stuff, those guitars are feeding back, and it can be obviously grating and monotonous, and then all of a sudden some symphonic melody will emerge out of that feedback, and it's like, how did that happen? You know, the air in the room change it. So in a way, you're coloring the space, and the space is coloring the music back in a certain way. You know, like you said, John Cage, something.
Yeah, the chromesthesia. Isn't that what that's called?
Ooh, that's a cool word.
It's chromesthesia. It's like, it's a sound to color synesthesia, that where a sound involuntarily evokes experience or color or shape. And I think they didn't know that back then. in the 60s, or with John Cage. You've seen some of the things that Brian Eno's doing he has apps, like one's called Bloom, and it basically has a note tied to a little sound, and then it kind of just creates this generative thing, and it's beautiful,
I think that is really at the core of what I'm exploring with Ocesio, and really that's normally how I approach music. I sit down and get into the space and let what comes, and I just kind of shepherd it along in a lot of times as a pretty non-invasive kind of way. I mean, when you write a song, you've got to put the puzzle pieces together, but for ambient, you just kind of be the algorithm, and where your taste leads you. If I'm feeling slow divey tonight, I will throw something that evokes that on top of a beat and let it all kind of come together and do what it will do. And that's infinitely fascinating to me. I mean, I could do that all day, every day, indefinitely for the rest of my life. But it's infinitely fascinating. There's infinite possibilities to it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I find it fascinating too. It's in, 20th century modern art, you've got like people painting just using color theory, and it's not a subject. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same. Is that how you're approaching it? Like, you've got these colors in that medium where you're like, okay, they work together and they create either an emotional thing, or they work together in such a way that they activate the cones and the rods in your eye, so it kind of fascinates you. They were exploring just with that. Is that, are you playing with sound from an emotional palette? And talk to me a little bit about that. I'm fascinated with your process.
Yeah, it's always emotional. I don't, it's whatever resonates in the moment, and it really, it's yogic in a way, because you just avail yourself to the moment and whatever tools you have in your hand at the time. And a lot of times, for a modern musician, that's synthesizers and a DAW, and you jump in. But I mean, I just love to jump in and see where it takes me. And it's always that thing with that chord that launches you into space, and that's what's so interesting to me, and why I get kind of giddy about it, because you hit two notes. I mean, it can be one, but when you hit two, then damn, it's really magical. And then you hit three, and it's a lot of times what's fascinating about it for me, when you open a book and you just kind of put your finger on a word and see what that passage of the book gives you in that moment, or like a tarot card reading, you avail yourself to the moment and let it take you where it wants to take you.
Yeah, it's that's almost kind of a spiritual concept
for sure,
where because music does that. It does kind of cross into that what we talk transcendent territory. So where you're using synchronicity, and you just then all of a sudden, I guess what is it? It's kind of like automatic writing, in a way, but with music. I don't know, and it's not spooky. It's just something else is sort of there. What do you? So let's examine one of these pieces that you've done. Which one do you want to talk about?
The first one, Orchid, would be a good place to start. That's the one that I kind of pushed into the forefront. There's a few elements involved, and what I'm trying to do with this Ocesio project is confine myself to a few elements, and because you can go searching through synth sounds all night long, and that obviously has its place, but I just like to, for these pieces, get in and grab, usually starts with a chord or with a note even, or a lot of times from a beat forward is where I like to start and get a groove going, and then see, what the bass wants to do, or what the different elements want to do. So I kind of have, drum sounds, marimba sounds, some really spacey, slow divey guitars. There's some samples in there, some organic samples in there. Yeah, and like get the groove going and jump into it, and then try to get out of the way.
.78644 is produced by Kate Collins, original music by Mark Wiillenborg, myself, Stephen Collins, Kevin Daniel Humphreys, Jonathan Ray Case, in-studio performances by Mark Wiillenborg and Kevin Daniel Humphreys. Divine Punishment, written by Paul Harvey, adapted and read by Rebecca Pretlove. Please get in touch with us with anything related to music or art in the 78644 Metroplex at 78644podcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening.